It's getting very ugly for Donald Trump on Saturday, a disastrous morning for him so far, as his polling is tanking, as his regime is collapsing. The mad wannabe king is out there ranting and raving like a lunatic on social media. He posted early this morning, "To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump," saying that he will shoot commercial airliners that are near Venezuela as he continues to threaten war against that country, as he continues to try to pursue regime change, as he continues to engage in war crimes off the coast of Venezuela. As we wrote on the MeidasTouch network, Trump, with no authority to do so, demands that the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela be closed so that he can invade the country. Here's a map right now of the airspace. Just shows you how this individual, how this sick individual is just disrupting the global order. Then Donald Trump posts the following: "Because I have invoked favored nation status for the United States of America, drug prices are falling at levels never seen before. 500%, 600%, 700%, and more. No other president has been able to do this." Pause. Because, first off, something can't drop 600% or 700%. That would mean the pharmaceutical companies are paying us to buy their drugs. Also, prices aren't dropping 20% or 30% or 5%. Prices are going up. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. People are about to get kicked off of their insurance plans because people can't afford to buy what the plans cost now on the Affordable Care Act exchange because you've refused to extend the ACA subsidies. And so, no, they're not lower. And you can keep on trying to gaslight people and go, "Look, I've brought it down 700%. You haven't done any of this. You're a fraud. You're a con artist. This is just pathetic right there. Then he goes on to say that the tariffs have made us all rich and safe and powerful, and that it's done. Mission accomplished. That's what he's writing here. He goes, "Inflation has taken prices down." And he goes, "All this was brought about by strong leadership and tariffs, without which we would be a poor and pathetic laughingstock again. Evil American-hating forces are fighting us at the United States Supreme Court." What in the world are you talking about? Your trade war against the world has crippled the American economy. American businesses are struggling. American consumers can't afford anything. You are psychologically torturing people who live paycheck to paycheck, who can't pay their rent. The front page of the Chicago Sun-Times was Bleak Friday, not Black Friday, Bleak Friday. And that's how the American consumer feels right now, bleak. And that's, of course, why Donald Trump's polling in the latest Gallup poll is at basically an all-time low. It's essentially tied for when he left right after the January 6th insurrection. It's the worst in modern presidential history. But Donald Trump just ignores that, and he goes on and he posts his own fake polls to make himself feel happy. I mean, he's a sick individual. This is what he posts this morning. He goes, "Trump remains strong. GOP needs stronger response. The McLaughlin poll." Every single poll, Donald, has you as the worst in modern presidential history or presidential history, period, at this time. But go on, just go and lie. This makes you feel good. I mean, it is weird, strange, weak behavior. He goes on to post more about the 50-year mortgage, which universally everybody hates the idea of a 50-year mortgage. That's not what's going to make housing more affordable. It's actually going to put people in debt for the rest of their lives. You want to make housing more affordable? You want me to tell you how to do it? You increase the supply of housing. You see, the supply of housing is down because corporations and your billionaire oligarch friends in their private equity and hedge fund companies are buying up all of the housing so that they could bundle them, package them, and sell them. And they're preventing families from being able to access affordable housing and afford it. Because how can a young family or any family at all compete with your billionaire oligarch friends who snatch it with either all cash offers or bundle them together? It's impossible to do. It's impossible to do. Oh, and by the way, on Trump's social media, of course, there was an ad for this. Buy one, get one free, ivermectin. And it's a photo of Matt Gaetz. That's what they're selling on Trump's social media platform. By the way, this was the front page on Drudge. It says, Don's mental spiral. It talks about how Trump's been calling female reporters stupid and piggy and ugly. They talk about his mood swings. They talk about his utterly deranged behavior. And hat tip to Dr. Vin Gupta of Midas Health, who's been featured across national news, but it broke here on the MeidasTouch network, where he was discussing Donald Trump's declining health status. Folks, while Donald Trump is engaged in these war crimes off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia, which we now have additional detail about, right? We've reported here, of course, that Hegseth ordered Navy SEAL Team 6 to kill everybody who even survived the initial boat strikes by our military, and SEAL Team 6 did it. Those are war crimes. To show no quarter to people. First off, they're not even enemy combatants to begin with. Trump could try to make that up. These are extrajudicial killings. And then when people were saying, help, I'm alive, to then have Navy SEAL Team 6 go in and kill him? That's what's going on right now. And fortunately, one of the things that we're seeing is now Republicans and Democrats in the Senate have joined together. They just put out this message, and I think this is a pretty big deal, as Andrew Desiderio says. Senate Armed Service Committee Chair Roger Wicker, he's a Republican. He issued a statement with the top Democrat on that committee, Jack Reed, vowing vigorous oversight of Hegseth's kill them all order after Hegseth dismissed this Washington Post story that broke the news as fake news. The committee is aware of recent news reports and the Department of Defense's initial response regarding alleged follow-on strikes on suspected narcotics vessels in Southcom area of responsibility. The committee has directed inquiries to the department, and we will be conducting vigorous oversight to determine the facts related to these circumstances. I want to see Hegseth at that committee hearing. Frankly, I want to see Hegseth charged with war crimes, because he's a war criminal, and everybody who carried out those orders are a war criminal. Anybody in that chain of command is a war criminal, and it's so disgusting that this is being done in the name of the United States, right? At the same time, you have those war crimes taking place. You had Donald Trump making social media posts yesterday saying that he has pardoned or will be pardoning the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted in the United States and sentenced to 45 years in prison for being one of the biggest drug traffickers. Juan Orlando Hernandez worked hand in hand with the Sinaloa cartel and other cartels in Mexico and across the world in order to bring in billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of drugs into the United States. Juan Orlando Hernandez and his brother were convicted in the United States after being extradited. These are the top drug traffickers out there. And this is who Donald Trump is pardoning. The guy who's literally bringing most of the drugs into the United States with El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel. That is what this despicable Trump regime is doing. And what was notable when I tried to look at the sourcing of which media reported on the story of Juan Orlando Hernandez's pardon, I noticed that there was very little right-wing coverage on it. And by the way, that is important to note so we can see what their propaganda machine is doing. Lots of people ask me how I stay up to date on the news all the time in order to do this show and to program the MeidasTouch Network and our YouTube channels. So my go-to source is something called Ground News. Ground News is a subscriber-funded app and news site, and every day they pull in thousands of articles from around the world and organize them by story and then show you what the right is reporting, what the center is reporting, what is the left reporting. It's a game changer because as active, responsible citizens, we must get our news from reliable sources. In Trump's America, being an informed citizen and being an informed reporter, I think, is incredibly important. That's why I love Ground News. For every article, they also tell you, did a media conglomerate put this out? Or was it independent media? And they also show you the degree of factuality, which is interesting, as I think there is a lot of news sources from media conglomerates that have lower factuality than independent media. Independent media seems to have higher factuality, but you get all of that with Ground News and their Vantage subscription plan. That's the plan that I use. I like their blind spot feed, which highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, like the story I just talked about with Juan Orlando Hernandez. So go to ground.news/MTN, get 40% off of the Ground News Vantage plan that I use each and every morning. They're subscriber funded. By subscribing, you're not only getting a tool we all need today, you're also supporting our work here on this YouTube channel. That's ground.news/MTN, and we've pinned a link so that you can purchase your subscription below. That's ground.news/MTN. Now, folks, one of the things that we are seeing, talking about different sides of the political spectrum here, though, Republicans in Indiana, for example, and we're seeing this at a state level as well, are pissed at the Trump regime's extortionate threats, harassment, and the fact that these Republicans in Indiana, 6 or 7 of them are at this point, have already been subject to swatting attempts after the Trump regime has threatened them. Indiana Senator Greg Walker, one of these people who was subject to swatting threats, he declined a visit to the Oval Office to discuss redistricting, and he accused the White House of violating the Hatch Act. So Trump's been pressuring people like him and Michael Boachek and these other Republicans in Indiana saying, you have to help me rig the midterms. Let me just tell you what Greg Walker said. He goes, I'm not going to the White House. I refused the invitation, but the underling who reached out to me is trying to influence the election on my dime. That individual works for me. He works for you. He's on my payroll. He's on your payroll. And he's campaigning on company time. That's a violation of the Hatch Act. He's a federal employee. He works in the White House, but does anyone care about the rules anymore? Not that I can tell. How does Trump even have the time to mess with somebody like me with all of the important matters that are to take his attention as the leader of the executive branch in this nation? There's no way that he should have the time to have a conversation with me about Indiana map making when that's not his business, for starters. But secondly, doesn't he have anything better to do? I can make a big list of things that are more important for him to focus on. And one of the things that Greg Walker also says is, what this is also really about is that Donald Trump knows that if he loses the midterms, he's going to be impeached again. He goes, that's what this is all about. Then you had Michael Boachek, another Republican Indiana state senator. These are state senators, who goes, many of you have asked my position on redistricting. I've been an unapologetic advocate for people with intellectual disabilities since the birth of my second daughter. Those of you that don't know me or my family might not know that my daughter has Down syndrome. This is not the first time our president has used these insulting and derogatory references, and his choice of words have consequences. I'll be voting no on redistricting. Perhaps he can use the next 10 months to convince voters that his policies and behaviors deserve a congressional majority. That followed Donald Trump referring to Governor Walz of Minnesota, and Governor Walz's son has also some intellectual disabilities, and he's referring to Governor Walz as the R word, as the R word. I mean, that's what Donald Trump is doing, and it's horrific, and it has consequences. And it just, how could you as the leader of the United States be talking like that? Should also be noted, one of the headlines here is that Congo, Rwanda, and their presidents are potentially going to be heading to Washington to maybe sign a peace deal this week. Didn't Donald Trump announce this like several months ago? And then there was actually no peace. And what was actually continued to happening is the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group was continuing to operate in the Congo. And we saw lots of people being killed. I mean, we saw thousands of people being killed this year alone while Trump is in office. And that didn't subside since Donald Trump's announced the peace deal. So Donald Trump claims that he secured 8 peace deals, which are all lies. Congo and Rwanda was one of them, but now they're going back to sign the peace deal again. This is like every month he goes, I did a deal with China. Look, I did another deal with China. Look, he keeps just repeating the same fake deals over and over and over again to get the headlines and manipulate the markets. And while Trump's out there doing that, you have China working, actually doing things with nations while Trump just looks like another fool. And Trump's created this whole lane for China. For example, Kenya has turned to China for $1.5 billion of highway funding following U.S. funding setbacks. So Kenya now is getting a $1.5 billion infusion from China. This is all part of China's Belt and Roads Initiative, that they are expanding their influence in areas as the U.S. pulls back. And they're doing what basically USAID once did, except at a grander scale as USAID pulls away, and these countries are turning to them. That's what's happening right now. But, Donald Trump's at Mar-a-Lago. Just take a look at what Mar-a-Lago looks like with all the fake gold there. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, goes, this is Mar-a-Lago. So I think he's probably just getting started with the gold stuff in the White House. I mean, look at just how grotesque that looks. That's what this golden ballroom is going to look like. And of course, he's spending the weekend fighting with the architect, John McCreary II, regarding the ballroom, because the architect doesn't want the ballroom to be increased in size, and Donald Trump wants the ballroom to be even bigger and more gold, and the architect's like, nah, I'm not doing that. So Trump's spending the weekend not just shutting down the airspace over Venezuela, engaging in war crimes, but he's focused on having a fight with an architect over a golden ballroom. Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million, and thanks so much for watching.
New Meidas merch drop! Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.